All right, how you doing? We back at it again. Dog Food Radio, Dog Food TV, part of the Fanatical L's uh, Sports Network, Fans First Sports Network. Rather, Fanatical L's is the team that we on, and we going into week 4, and team is 1-2, and there's a lot of chatter as to whether it's the quarterback, is it the offensive scheme, is it the coach, is it the play calling, and there's depending on who you ask, you're gonna get a bunch of different opinions. You got a lot of large contingent that feels like it's the quarterback. You got a small contingent that feels like it's the coach. You got a contingent that just feels like, oh, it's just the same old Browns, whatever, whatever. So I'm part of that contingent that feels as though it is the coach that is the problem, specifically his play calling, his head coaching duties. He needs to just focus on managing the game, managing the team, as opposed to calling plays. If you watched our last video, we looked at team offense rankings and we looked at passing offense rankings. If you look at the team offensive rankings since 2020, you have 14th for the Browns, 20th, 18th, and 11th. That is average. It's pretty average. If you add those up, you're going to be around 15, 14, 15. That's average. They've never led in team offense. And I guess you can say, to his credit, he's never been last in team offense, but it's middle of the pack. Middle of the pack is not going to get it done. We looked at passing offense, and this is where it doesn't matter how you feel. This is what the stats say: 24th in pass, 27th in pass, 22nd in pass, 19th in pass. And if I can look it up real quickly, they are currently ranked in the pass. Make sure I have 2024 pulled up here. For this year, they are currently ranked 30th in pass. That is typically an offensive coordinator stat, because they're calling the plays. But guess what? He's been calling the plays since he got there. So if you haven't watched that video, go back and check it out. Today, we're going to look at the record of teams in the AFC North when they score 20 or more points and when they score 19 and less points. And you're going to see more evidence that Stefanski's play calling has handcuffed the offense of this team. It doesn't matter who the quarterback has been, because there were people that have been clamoring for Baker Mayfield. But if you go back and look at the Baker Mayfield stats, we just looked at the passing rankings. You had a healthy Nick Chubb at that point. What is the excuse? So let's take a look at the record of teams in the AFC North when they score over 20 points or over, at least 20 or over. In 2020, the Browns were 11-1. The Ravens were 12-2. Steelers were 11-2. So you got a dominant performance by the AFC North in that particular year. Bengals were 4-3-1. You fast forward, you go to 2021, the Browns are 5-3. Bengals they jump to 11-5. Steelers go 6-3. Ravens go 5-4. So kind of a down year for the AFC North, and the Bengals go on to the Super Bowl in that particular year. Bengals pick up right where they left off in 2022, 14-2. Steelers are 6-2. Browns are 6-5. Ravens are 5-4. Again, a little bit of a down year for the division. And then if you go to 2023, Steelers were 7-0 in games where they scored 20 or more. The Ravens were 14-1. Browns were 9-2. Bengals were 7-2. So strong showing by the division as a whole. All right. Let's look at the record when they score 19 or less. 2020 at the Bengals at 0-8, Browns 1-5, Steelers 1-4, Ravens 0-3. 2021, you had the Browns 3-6, Ravens 3-5, Steelers 2-5-1, Bengals 2-3. 2022, Steelers 3-6, Browns 1-5. Ravens look like, up to this point, the only one with a winning record when they score under 19. That's 5-4. Bengals went 0-3. Last year, Steelers were 3-8 when they scored less than 19. Browns were 2-5. Bengals were 2-5. Ravens were 0-4. Now, let's try to make sense of all of those numbers. If you look at the win percentage of the coaches When they score 20 or more points, Mike Tomlin is 23-7. That's good for 81%, 80.5. Harbaugh is 36-11. That's good for 77%. That's 76.5. Zach Taylor, 36-12. It's good for 75%. Who is dead last in that statistic? Kevin Stefanski, 31-11. That's good for 74%. Let's look at the under 19 real quick. Stefanski is third, Harbaugh's first, Tomlin second, and then Zach Taylor is last. Now, you'll notice that Tomlin and Stefanski appear to have the most games under 19 points, but it washes out for Tomlin because he's the best when he scores over 20 points. And with that defense, you can see why he doesn't typically, or he hasn't had a losing season yet. We got more stats to look at. Let's pause for a brief word from our sponsors, and then we're going to come back, look at the last couple of slides. We're going to look ahead to week 4, and we'll wrap this thing on up. Stay tuned. All right. So now, anytime that you do an experiment like this, well, not an experiment, but you analyze some things, you got to have a control. You gotta have something else to compare it to. Now, of these coaches, only one of them has been to the Super Bowl in the last 4 years, since 2020. So what I did was I took the last couple of Super Bowl participants minus the Bengals, because we already looked at them. So we got the Chiefs, we got the Rams, we got the 49ers, and we got the Eagles. This is since 2020. Games where the offense scores over 20 points. Chiefs 15-2, Rams 9-3, 49ers 6-6, Eagles 4-3-1. The next year, Rams 16-3, Chiefs 12-5, 49ers 10-3, Eagles 9-6. Next season, Chiefs 17-2, Eagles 15-3, 49ers 13-1, Rams 4-2. Next season, last year that is, 49ers 14-2, Chiefs 11-1, Eagles 11-1, Rams 9-4. Now you notice for the Chiefs, they are double digits every year. They've double-digit wins in games they score 20 points or more. The 49ers, let's see, double digits 3 of the 4 years. All right. And the Rams are a little bit inconsistent, but we know they won a Super Bowl in 2021, I think that was. Same thing with the Eagles. But you got 2 double digits for the Eagles and then 9 in 2021. Now let's look at the under 19 or 19 and under real quick, and it will make sense of these figures. So Eagles, they had a down year in 2020. Now, Nick Sirianni, he wasn't the coach in 2020, and that'll make sense here in a second. But you'll notice that the Chiefs, they don't really have games other than last year, which was a down year. They don't really have games where they scored 19 or less. In 2020, they only had 2. In 2021, they only had 3. In 2022, they only had 1. And they had 9 last year, a little bit of a down year. 49ers, again, they tend to have them a little bit more, but it's only a quarter of their season. Eagles, they had a little stretch where they didn't have that many, but again, that stat probably varies a little bit, could depend on injuries, those type of things. So, it's the over 20 is where you really, your bread is buttered, if you will. Now let's try to make sense of those statistics. Again, this is just our Super Bowl participants, right, from the last couple of years, minus the Bengals, because we've already looked at the Bengals. Look at Andy Reid's win percentage when he scores 20 or more. That's 65 games that he scored 20 or more, and he's 85% in those games, 55-10. Shanahan, 78%, 43-12. Sirianni, 35-10. And remember, for Sirianni, it's only 3 years. 78% win percentage when he scores 20 or more. Sean McVay, 38-12. That's good for 76%. And if you see the under 19, Reid has a higher winning percentage than all of those coaches by a landslide. And you can see why they have been to multiple Super Bowls in the last 4 years, because offensively, nothing to really talk about there. Now, we talked about the AFC North. So let's go ahead and let's combine all of these percentages and let's try to make sense of what we're talking about, just in case it's not clear to you yet. So now we have our overall percentages. This is the over, this is 20 and over. These are all the coaches we looked at. 20 and over since 2020 going to 2023. Andy Reid, we just looked at that, 85%. Okay. Look at who's dead last on this stat. Okay. Look at who's dead last. Also, we said Nick Sirianni wasn't the coach of the Eagles in 2020. So that 35 and 10, let me say it calmly, that 35 and 10 right there, that is only for 3 years. So in 3 years, he's won 4 more games than Stefanski when he scores 20 or more. And he's won or he's lost 1 less, right? So most metrics that you want to use, especially when you're talking about advanced offense, Stefanski is below average. He's below average. Andy Reid, Super Bowl, Tomlin, it's been a while, but he's been consistent. Shanahan, he's been to some Super Bowls. Sirianni, been to a Super Bowl. Harbaugh, it's been a minute. He's consistent. But you talk about Tomlin and Harbaugh, those are the two best coaches in the division. Sean McVay, Super Bowl winner. Zach Taylor, been to a Super Bowl. Look at who's last. Stefanski. This isn't to say that he's a bad coach. He's a bad play caller. Again, he is a bad play caller. Let's look at the past rankings real quick, just in case y'all forgot. Where are our past rankings? Look at these past rankings. That's team. Where's that pass offense? Where is just the? I want just the pass. Where is that at? Right here, bottom row. 24th, 27th, 22nd, 19th. Let's see how many points the Browns have scored this particular season. Let's take a look. 17, 18, and 15. Now, again, there's going to be some of y'all that are going to say, well, the quarterback, what quarterback has he had? And y'all point to Joe Flacco. Well, Joe Flacco put up numbers against the 26th ranked defense, pass defense, 23rd, 25th. And I want to say the Jets were second, but they had a quarterback who ain't even in the league quarterbacking right now in Trevor Siemian. He ain't even in the league no more. So basically what we're pointing at is that Kevin Stefanski, when you compare him to the elite coaches, right? I think most people, if you look at this list, the only coach that they wouldn't consider elite is probably Nick Sirianni and Zach Taylor. Again, they're having a down year. They're 0-3. I wouldn't even put him in the elite category. I wouldn't put Sirianni in the elite category. But Reid, Tomlin, Shanahan, Harbaugh, McVay, and maybe McVay isn't. But again, Stefanski is last compared to them. And we can do it. I can pull more stats and see where Stefanski falls. But I would guarantee if there's 32 coaches, he's not going to be in the top 15 in this stat. I would almost put money on that because he's average, especially when you're talking about 20 and over. Now, maybe let's go to our 19 and under stat. Okay. Pretty decent there. He's 4th on the list, right? But if you're not scoring 20 or more points, then what are we even talking about? Because even with that elite defense, the defense is holding teams to 14, 17, 19, 22, 24. The problem is that the offense can't outscore them. That is the main problem. And we're talking 3 touchdowns and a field goal, something like that. And he was brought here for his offensive prowess. So somebody gonna have to tell me, why does Kevin Stefanski keep getting a pass, especially when he's the one calling the plays? Because remember, we're talking about scoring. So that would typically fall on the offensive coordinator, because I can guarantee whoever the offensive coordinator has been or would have been, he would have been fired by now, right? They got rid of AVP and brought in Ken Dorsey, but they can't really take no blame because they're not calling the plays. You understand what I'm saying? So that's you just the stats are there. There's nothing to really talk about. He's average, below average, really. So the Browns, if the Browns want to be a respected organization and take the next step, somebody is going to have to tell him, you got to step down on the play calling piece. And if you're not willing to do that, give him his walking papers, because this team's window is starting to close a little bit. They need a spark. Now, let's go ahead and get this off the screen here. Let's go ahead and take a look real quick at the Raiders. They got to go out to Vegas. And right now, the Raiders are ranked. Let's see, I just had it. The Raiders are ranked. Where we at? The Raiders are ranked currently in team defense. They are 27th. They are 23rd against the pass and 29th against the run. So surprisingly, I would say that the Browns probably have a good shot, because if they can get the run going, that will at least give them an opportunity to try to get the pass game going. But again, we're talking about if Kevin Stefanski is still calling the plays, combined with some of the offensive line issues that they've been having, that might not be enough. Offensively, let's see what the Raiders are doing offensively. I don't really think they're doing all that much. Let's see, the Browns are ranked 25th. The Raiders are 19th. The Browns are 30th in the pass. And the Raiders are, where are the Raiders at? Oh, the Raiders are actually number 4 against the pass. Well, Browns have a good secondary, so that should equal out, especially with Gardner Minshew back there. Browns are 24th in rushing, and the Raiders are dead last. So I think this is probably a good matchup for the Browns, but you never know, because they just beat Baltimore. So that's the fun thing about the NFL. Styles make fights, matchups make fights. You know what I'm saying? The Bengals play the Chiefs tough, but they're 0-3 right now, and they just lost to the Commanders. They still the Redskins to me, but yeah. So we'll see. But the main takeaway from this video is that Kevin Stefanski got to give up play calling. If he doesn't give up play calling, you're going to have a lost season. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Just understand that, because you had Baker Mayfield, Beckham, Jarvis Landry, Njoku, and a healthy Nick Chubb. And the best they could do, let's pull it up one more time, just in case you was late to this. The best they could do during that span was 24th. That was the playoff year. Okay. Then they run Baker out of town, right? Some of y'all wanted Baker gone. Some of y'all wanted them to stay. But Baker's gone now. And since then, the best they've done is 19th. Kevin Stefanski has never had, to my knowledge, based on the stats and the research that I've done, he's never had a top 10. I don't even think he's ever had a top 15 passing offense. So where is the narrative that there's this explosive offense that's just bubbling under the surface that we've seen before? Because you've never seen it. If you look at the stats here, you've never seen an explosive passing offense from this team. You've seen an explosive run offense, but you're starting to see that was probably more of a Bill Callahan effect than it was a Kevin Stefanski effect. And you got the best or top 2 running back at the time that was, getting that yardage. So, I don't want to say that any part of the schedule is light, but this is definitely a must win. They got to win this game. And after that, they who do they have after that? They have the Commanders, the Eagles, the Bengals, the Ravens. So yeah, this is going to be a tough little stretch. It doesn't get easier after the Raiders, for sure. And another reason you want to beat the Raiders is because they beat the Ravens. So you would have that tiebreaker piece with them. You beat the Commanders, who just beat the Bengals. You'll have that over them, because right now you're 3rd in the division, because the Ravens beat the Cowboys and they have the tiebreaker of the Cowboys over you. So you got to have this game for a couple of reasons. But that'll do it for this edition of Dog Food TV, Dog Food Radio. Appreciate you if you stuck to the end. Really appreciate y'all. Believe we're going to have a, what do you call that? One of those group calls or whatever with everybody. We're going to be talking about all this stuff. It's been a lot going on this week. So be sure to tune in for that. So really appreciate y'all. Go Browns, and holla at y'all in the next one.